There are moments in life when everything becomes too heavy, too confusing, too uncertain to hold together. You try to stay strong, but something inside you quietly asks, how much longer can I keep going like this? It's in these moments, when the mind is overwhelmed and the heart feels tired, that a deeper intelligence begins to awaken within you. Not the loud, motivational kind that demands instant action, but the quiet, honest truth that rises from your inner depths. This truth doesn't rush, it waits. And when you're finally still enough to hear it, it finds you. It finds you in the spaces where you can no longer pretend. It finds you when your defenses fall, when your old identity cracks, when the story you've been living no longer matches the person you're becoming. What feels like falling apart is often the exact moment you begin to fall into yourself. This message comes to remind you that you are not lost. You are being redirected. You are not weak. You are shedding what was never truly yours. You are not behind. You are aligning with a path that requires a more honest version of you. Life has a way of delivering what you need precisely when you need it, even if it doesn't arrive in the form you expect. Sometimes it comes as a loss, a pause, a disappointment, or a breakdown. But these aren't punishments. They're invitations. They ask you to stop running, stop forcing, and stop carrying weight that was never meant to be yours. They ask you to listen. Because when everything external is stripped away, what remains is the one thing you often forget you have, your inner guidance. The part of you that knows when something is wrong, when something is right, and when something no longer belongs in your life. The part of you that has been speaking softly for years, waiting for you to finally trust it. And when you begin to trust it, you discover something extraordinary. You were never as far from your path as you feared. You were being shaped by every struggle, refined by every setback, and prepared by every moment of doubt. You were not failing, you were forming. So if these words have found you today, it's not an accident. They arrive at the exact moment you are ready to shift, to release, to rise. Not because you need to force a transformation, but because transformation is already happening within you. Let this message be your reminder that you are guided, even when you feel lost. You are becoming, even when you feel broken. And you are exactly where you need to be, even when you cannot see the path ahead. This will find you when you need it most. And it just did. Life sends clarity at the exact moment you feel most confused, because confusion softens the rigid walls of certainty you've built around yourself. When everything feels predictable, your mind clings to old beliefs, familiar routines, and outdated identities. But when uncertainty enters, when the path blurs and the answers disappear, you are forced into a state of openness you would never consciously choose. Confusion destabilizes the structures that keep you repeating the same patterns. It interrupts the automatic ways you react, think, and make decisions. It pauses the momentum of a life lived on assumptions. And in that pause, in that fragile space where you admit you don't know what to do next, clarity can finally step in. Most people misunderstand confusion as a failure of understanding, but it is actually a sign of internal expansion. You are outgrowing something, a relationship, a belief, a plan, or a version of yourself. Your mind cannot reconcile where you are with where you're being called to go, so it enters this disorienting in-between state. But confusion is not the end of the journey. It is the threshold. It invites you to stop forcing answers and allow a deeper truth to surface. When you are confused, you listen more carefully. You question more honestly. You notice what resonates, what feels heavy, and what no longer fits. Your intuition, usually drowned out by habitual noise, begins to speak louder. Clarity rarely arrives during moments of control. It emerges in the quiet aftermath of surrender. When you let go, when you drop the need to have everything figured out immediately, you create room for insight to appear. Sometimes clarity comes as a sudden realization, a shift in perspective, or an unexpected inner knowing. Other times it unfolds slowly, revealing one step at a time, guiding you forward with gentle precision. The key is that clarity only reveals itself when you are open enough to receive it, and confusion is what cracks that openness wide. There is a deeper intelligence moving through your life, one that understands timing far better than the mind does. When you're too certain you cannot change, When you're too confused, you cannot pretend. It is in the delicate balance between letting go and listening that clarity finds you. And when it does, you realize the confusion was never a detour. It was the very doorway through which truth could finally reach you. Your moments of doubt and exhaustion are signals of inner transformation because they mark the exact points where your old ways of being can no longer sustain the person you are becoming. When you feel drained, unmotivated, or unsure of yourself, it often means that something within you is shifting, stretching, and breaking away from patterns that no longer align with your deeper truth. Exhaustion isn't always a lack of energy. Sometimes it is the fatigue that comes from carrying beliefs, expectations, and identities that are too small for you now. Doubt isn't always a sign that you're failing. Sometimes it's the whisper that tells you a former version of you is dissolving, so a more authentic one can emerge. These internal signals tend to appear when you've reached the limits of an outdated perception about your worth, your path, your capabilities, or your relationships. You feel tired not because you are weak, but because your inner world is rearranging itself. Think of it like emotional growing pains, uncomfortable, disorienting, and heavy, yet deeply necessary. The mind resists change, especially when it disrupts the familiar structures it relies on to feel safe. So doubt emerges to question everything you thought you knew. Exhaustion arrives to slow you down long enough to notice what your life is trying to reveal. Together, they create the space needed for transformation to take place. In these moments, you're not meant to push harder. You're meant to listen more deeply. The discomfort is trying to show you where you've been compromising yourself, where you've been ignoring your inner needs, or where you've been pretending everything is fine when something inside you is calling for renewal. You may feel lost because you're navigating a transition between who you were and who you're becoming. Your energy feels low because your system is reallocating resources toward healing, understanding, and recalibrating your direction. Transformation often begins quietly, disguised as uncertainty, fatigue, or emotional heaviness. But beneath the surface, your subconscious is releasing old narratives, breaking emotional patterns, and preparing you to step into a more aligned version of your life. When doubt shakes you, it's clearing space for clarity. When exhaustion slows you, it's creating room for renewal. You are not falling apart, you are being rewritten. These moments are not signs of failure, they're evidence that your inner landscape is evolving, preparing you for a reality that matches who you truly are. Breakdowns often reveal the deeper self you've been ignoring because they strip away everything you used to distract, numb, or distance yourself from your true inner state. When life is functioning smoothly, it's easy to bury uncomfortable emotions beneath routines, responsibilities, and socially acceptable versions of yourself. You keep moving, keep performing, keep fulfilling roles, and the deeper layers of your psyche remain untouched. But when a breakdown arrives, it disrupts the stability of your surface identity, forcing you to confront what you've avoided for far too long. It exposes the truths that were quietly accumulating beneath your daily life, your unmet needs, suppressed desires, unresolved pain, and forgotten aspirations. A breakdown is not simply the collapse of your external world, it is the collapse of the inner facade you've been holding up to survive. In the moment, it feels chaotic, humiliating, and overwhelming. Yet it is within that vulnerability that your unfiltered self finally speaks. All the emotions you dismissed as not important right now, all the intuitions you brushed aside, all the discomfort you pushed down, they rise with intensity, demanding to be acknowledged. This is not a malfunction of your mind or heart, it is a breakthrough in disguise. What breaks is not you, it's the false stability that kept you disconnected from your authentic self. When the structures of your life fall apart, you're forced to look inward rather than outward. You begin asking deeper questions. What do I truly want? What do I need? What have I been tolerating? What part of myself have I silenced to keep the peace? These questions don't appear during moments of comfort. They surface when you're brought to your knees, because only then are you willing to face what you've been avoiding. In this fragile space, your deeper self finally becomes visible, the part of you that knows your real fears, your real strengths, your real wounds, and your real potential. Breakdowns reveal not only what's broken, but also what's real. They show you who you've been pretending to be and who you can no longer continue being. Beneath the shaking, crying, exhaustion, or emotional collapse lies a raw sincerity that you rarely access in ordinary life. That sincerity is the gateway to transformation. It invites you to rebuild from a place of truth rather than obligation, fear, or habit. And when you rise again, you do so not as a version constructed for survival, but as the version shaped by honesty, awareness, and a deeper understanding of yourself. Difficult experiences are not punishments, but invitations, because they arrive at the exact moments when your life needs to shift, grow, or redirect. You may interpret them as something unfair, something you must endure, or something you somehow deserved. But life does not send hardship as a form of retribution. Hard moments come as catalysts, forces that shake loose the patterns, attachments, and illusions you have outgrown. They expose the fragility of your old ways and open the door to parts of yourself you would never access through comfort alone. These experiences are invitations to pause, look inward, and examine the parts of your life that have been whispering for change, but were drowned out by routine or fear. When something difficult disrupts your path, it forces you to confront what you've been avoiding. Loss may ask you to reflect on what truly matters. Heartbreak may reveal where you have been abandoning yourself. Failure may show you the direction that no longer holds meaning for you. Frustration may point to boundaries you've never learned to set. These experiences are mirrors. They reflect your deepest needs, wounds, and potential back to you, stripped of the distractions that normally keep them hidden. The discomfort becomes a doorway, urging you to step through into a more aligned version of your life. In moments of struggle, you often ask, "Why is this happening to me?" But a more transformative question is, what is this trying to show me? Every challenge carries a message, an insight, or an opportunity for growth that cannot be reached while life remains easy. Pain interrupts autopilot. Disruption interrupts denial. Hardship interrupts the parts of your life where you've settled for less than truth. These moments slow you down so you can finally listen to your intuition, your needs, your boundaries, your potential. They ask you to stop fighting the outer circumstance long enough to understand the inner shift unfolding. Over time, you've been living can't contain who you're becoming. Identity is built over years. Through expectations, habits, roles, and coping mechanisms, it works for a time, giving you structure and direction. But as you evolve, those structures can become too tight, like clothing that once fit but now restricts your movement. When this happens, you begin to feel subtle discomfort, a sense of misalignment, a quiet dissatisfaction, an intuitive pull towards something different. At first, these signals are easy to ignore, but the more you resist them, the louder they become. Your inner guidance refuses to let you remain small in spaces you've outgrown. The tension between who you were and who you are becoming creates friction inside you. This friction shows up as restlessness, confusion, emotional heaviness, or a sudden loss of interest in things that once motivated you. These aren't signs of failure. They're evidence that your inner world is trying to break through the surface of your life. The old identity relies on predictability and familiarity, but your deeper self is not interested in comfort, it's interested in truth. And truth demands change. So your intuition begins to speak more boldly, nudging you toward decisions that align with your values, your needs, and your authentic direction. Inner guidance doesn't always arrive as clear answers. Sometimes it comes as a quiet knowing that something has run its course. Other times it arises as a hunger for more meaning, more honesty, more freedom. You may not understand what you're being pulled toward, but you feel unmistakably that you can't keep living the same way. The inner voice becomes a compass, pointing toward expansion even when your outer life hasn't yet rearranged itself. This voice grows louder because your soul refuses to let your growth be delayed by the comfort of familiarity. The old identity begins to crack under the weight of your expansion. The roles you played, the relationships you maintained, and the dreams you once chased start to feel foreign. You sense that continuing the old path would require you to betray yourself. And that realization is the point where inner guidance becomes impossible to ignore. It speaks through intuition, through discomfort, through longing, and through synchronicities that gently redirect your steps. You are being guided not away from your life, but toward a version of it that reflects who you truly are. Your inner voice rises because it knows you are ready to grow into a bigger, truer identity, one that finally fits. And so, as you move forward, remember this: nothing within you is breaking without purpose. Every confusion, every doubt, every moment of exhaustion, every breakdown, and every shift in identity is guiding you back to yourself. Life is not pulling you apart, it is pulling you inward. You are shedding what was never truly yours, so you can stand in the truth that has always been waiting for you. You don't need to force your transformation or rush your healing. You only need to listen, because the guidance you seek is already rising within you. The path ahead may not be fully clear yet, but clarity will come step by step, the moment you are ready to receive it. If you are hearing these words now, it means the shift has already begun. Something in you is awakening, something in you is aligning, and something in you is quietly preparing to rise. Trust this moment. Trust the unseen changes happening within. Trust the version of yourself that is emerging through every challenge. This message has found you now for a reason. Let it be your reminder that you are not lost, you are not failing, and you are not alone. You are transforming, and the life that matches who you're becoming is already moving toward you.